I'd like to call the Fremont School Board meeting to order for Tuesday, July 9th at 6:30. And we'll start with the salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do a roll call.
Briggs here.
Turner here. Keen here.
Kid here?
All over here.
And we will go right to old business. The superintendent's final report. There were just a few items that I wanted to make sure. Most of this, we will have the interim superintendents pick up right from where it's left off with the committees and all when that person comes on. We might actually have an announcement to make as early as tomorrow about who the interim superintendent might be. Let's see. I think we might have negotiations on our agenda for tonight too for the paras.
Yes.
And the sports staff. The state reports, Lori, do you know those, when the deadline is for those?
Actually, are you referring to, okay, end of year report, I believe is due by the 15th of July.
Okay.
And I've already spoken with Ms. Ford. There's also a school safety plan, which is due here in the next day or so. And catastrophic aid, the first pass of catastrophic aid filing is July 31st. The three tuition reports kind of have me thrown off because I don't have some records here, but I will look into exactly what those are, because the A13, some of those do relate to vocational school districts.
So do we need to do anything as a board with those, or is that?
Strictly internal.
Okay.
Internal.
Okay. And then, of course, budget prep will be done when the new interim comes in. The policy committee did not meet before this meeting, but we plan to meet at the next first meeting of August. Sharon and I just had read too much and done too much this week to do anything more than policies.
Really?
Yes, we just resigned ourselves to the fact that we just couldn't do it.
That's okay, I like that.
So.
All right.
Contract negotiations. And I did do a little bit on the Facebook blog just to get people up to speed on what we're doing with the superintendent interim position.
So she gave you the, because she didn't leave the, you got the.
She did. We have the password of the username. And,
Really?
yeah.
'Cause I saw it on my thing, it said username and it was blank. It said
Because we
password.
didn't want it for everybody to
Right,
see.
Right.
But you're certainly welcome to if you want to.
Did
We just didn't want to publish it.
No, I can understand that.
Did we change it by chance?
Did I change it?
We should probably just change it.
The username and password?
The password.
What I ended up doing was, I simply made myself an admin,
Okay.
and then I made the other person just an insights
Okay.
viewer.
Cool, all right.
Yeah, so
You know how to do that.
I do. So it's protected. I mean, there's nothing that can be done to it, that, not that we have to worry about that anyway. Non-public minutes, we'll do a non-public. And we will move right to. I don't think there's any agenda revisions. Is there? Does anybody need anything changed on the agenda?
No.
Okay, so we'll go right to minutes. We'll do non-public in non-public, and the public minutes of June 18th are the first. And that's page 9 of the packet.
But I got the
On
page.
the file.
Sorry, page 13 of the packet. Did anybody have any changes to the minutes?
Well, I have some changes at page 4.
So, again, I got to preface all this with, I am not an English major, as everyone knows, but on page 11, it says Mrs. Kit and Mr. Fraser agreed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I saw
sorry.
that.
Yep, yep.
Well, let's just say we both agree.
So we're doing the non-public minutes from,
We're doing the public minutes,
okay.
which is page 13 of the packet, or it has the number 9 at the bottom.
Like every second year.
I didn't really change
Anything besides the agreed? I have nothing.
No, I'm sorry.
it. All right.
And like I said, the non-publics will be moved to the non-public session. So don't let me forget to do this, but I'll put the notes down here for those. Okay, boards and communications and reports, superintendent's report. Oh, we need to accept those minutes if you wouldn't mind.
Move to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Board communications and reports, superintendent's report on the commissioners' meeting. Michelle did a beautiful job of basically summarizing what she learned at the commissioners' conference. She also left us with a whole packet of information that was handed to her, which I'm gonna pass to the interim. And she also left a book that they handed out there.
All right.
So I wrote our names inside of it, and we'll read it and pass it to the next person, and pass it to the next person, and just keep passing it until everybody gets a chance to read it. Sarah asked to read it too, so after Sarah gets it, she can pass it to whoever else wants to read it at the school. But it's creating an effective board superintendent partnership.
Cool.
So, I read this over, the summary report that Michelle did, but I don't know if we want to do anything with it at all until the new interim comes on and can take us through it. How does
I
everybody
would
feel
say we
about
should
that?
wait.
The normal step forward.
Okay. And then we have response to staff letter, which you guys have edited a couple times. And I just got another email from Greg saying that he'd like to change one more thing. Which one, Greg? Always.
I got 5 minutes. On the first page, paragraph that starts with over the past 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, it is suddenly proving due to the school board initiative to reorganize the administration. I just think it's, school board and staff. The progress that's been made at school isn't, the way I read it looks like it was saying just because of the school board. It's certainly not just because of us. That's the way I read that line. So I'd like to.
But it was our initiative to reorganize.
To reorganize,
not the
but
staff's.
but the reorganization isn't necessarily what caused the 80% drop in discipline and higher scores.
No, that's what occurred after the reorganization.
But the way I'm reading it, it reads like a direct relationship. Did X and this happen?
I think there was.
There was, yeah, because we hired an assistant principal to handle this.
Yeah.
Not sure I agree, but okay.
How would you want to read, Greg, instead, or do you have a suggestion? Did you send us one?
No, I just sent you a quick blurb.
All right.
I can try to reword it. I understand what you're saying, Greg. I'll try to
Collaborative
reword
effort,
it.
that's
and-
all, yeah.
I'll try to reword it and then I'll send it out to you guys.
That's all I'm looking for.
Because I see since the inception of this change, and then it says what happened after the change. You can read, you can interpret it any way you want. It doesn't say the change caused this or as a result.
No, but
of
it
the
wasn't in a vacuum either. People,
Right.
the staff has a lot to do with the morale of the school, the discipline. And the
That's all. I just want to include more than
So
this.
I'll try to reword it,
Yeah.
that paragraph.
All right.
But besides that, I was good with the rest.
Okay. I'll send you guys another revised copy and then we'll
Okay.
get it out. Business administrators report.
Maybe your eyes will be not so quick. in the process of closing the books. And so it certainly is a process, as you go through the first, probably about 3 weeks or so of July, is when we're looking to come up with our final balances. So for right now, in the general fund, we have approximately $72,000 remaining, unspent. We're actually in the process of also relieving several other encumbrances. And it's an ongoing process, as the accounting assistant takes a look and looks at the bills and relieves those balances. At this point, I'm still reconciling the Sanborn Regional invoice, because we just got the enrollment sheet as of, on July 1st, actually. So I do have an encumbrance still on the books for approximately $60,000. So that takes into consideration, yeah. Relative to, there was one encumbrance that Principal Safina and I spoke about, and just want to bring it to the board's attention for formal approval, because it does involve the purchase of some curriculum and materials. And it is a product for intensive reading intervention, offered through Heinemann Publishing. The product is by Fontes and Pinnell, and we do have hard copy quotes. The cost is $7,736. I've encumbered that, so that's taken into consideration on the current balance due. But I just want to bring that to the board's.
That's for later for the transfer, right?
Actually, it is tied in with the transfers, yes. I do transfers to go and cover that, so whenever you want to take action on that.
Okay.
And then general fund revenues, I have, in excess of $65,000 in general fund revenues that have been collected. So I still have to record the receivables. They're not significant in the general fund. Probably several $1,000s, but we're in good shape.
What are receivables? Like, would you?
That would be, I had to bill Somersworth School District for some services that we farmed out to them, so they would owe us that.
Okay.
Small money.
Mm-hmm.
Raymond School District also for some caseworker services, that type of thing.
Okay.
So, can you explain to me the difference between receivables and revenue, because I thought they were kind of one and the same?
Well, you collect, right, your revenue is received for your tax purposes, but at June 30th, you know you're going to have a revenue, but you actually don't have the cash in hand. Right, but you know that it's measurable and determinable, and you're going to get it within, say, 60 days of the close of your books from June 30th.
So that makes it a receivable.
So it makes it a receivable, so when you go and you record it, you actually are gonna go and do your debit to your receivables, your credit to your revenue. When you get the cash in, then you have the cash transaction. So that's basically what that means.
Okay. Can I just ask you another question, and maybe I misunderstood, but when I did one of the manifests, I don't know if it was the last one or the one before, but I thought you said the bill that we paid to Sanborn, even though it wasn't final, I thought you said it was within $5,000. Did you?
And what I've done, I haven't come up with the final numbers. We paid a payment of $880,000 to Sanborn Regional. Instead of my adjusting the encumbrances, I've left the remaining encumbrance sitting on the books until I can get the final reconciliation done.
Okay.
So in other words, I haven't adjusted that encumbrance.
All right, because what I took away from that was we probably owe them around $5,000 more.
I'm still, we had much time.
Around there.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was clear in that in my head, because then you said you encumbered $60,000, so.
I
But
left
that's
the
just what was
remaining
left.
year-long
I gotcha.
encumbrance on the books.
Okay,
I'm just trying to be very cautious that way, really, until I'm very certain, and then you're only doing like one change order
all right,
to adjust it.
thank you.
Yeah, I was looking at the federal grants,
Mm-hmm.
and I just have a question, because it looks like, we, you know, there's amounts remaining without encumbrances, so it looks like there's money that wasn't spent.
Right.
Now, is that, do you expect encumbrances, or is that gonna have to, is that being carried over, or is that, we're
Depending
gonna
on-
have to return that?
Depending on which grant that you're referring to. For example, Title II is actually going to take you through as a carryover through, I believe, August, September 2014. Title I is carried over 7 months. That's how they're going to run their, some parts of their extended year program. So there's no money that actually has to get returned, because essentially there is a due from other funds.
All right.
And that's what we do, is we go into the DOE database and we say, okay, here's our bill, now pay us.
All right.
So that's how that works.
Right.
Again,
And the
we grant,
IDEA, like the
What's that?
30,000 for the IDEA, is that carried over also?
actually, no, IDEA is actually closing
Yeah,
June 30th. The reason that there's a lot of money left over in that, and this is something that really hurts all districts, not just Fremont, but that Sarah had her application in, and many other districts as well. They start getting the applications in May and June. Department of Education did not go and actually approve the grant until October 17th. So the salaries that are paid in August and September and through that half part of October had to be picked up elsewhere. We
So
can't
they don't do
recoup
it
the
retro?
monies. No, they don't do it retro. And, you know, this has been a historical issue. Special education is the idea. You can't go back retroactive.
For salary.
For any of it, your effective date of your grant is when, your effective date of your grant.
When you
So,
receive it?
so
Believe me,
how do we get around that? Would
Well, what you
putting
did-
the application in earlier solve that problem? Do they
Well,
do
what-
them in order?
What we did going forward is that we gross budgeted, we put everything in the general fund, all costs in the general fund. Then when we get the actual notification from the state, you're gonna reduce your budget in the general fund, and you're gonna move it over to your federal grants. You'll never overspend your bottom line.
So you'll move the entire amount, even though you can't apply it to those salaries, you can then apply it to
What
something
is
else?
applicable, what is applicable. So, for example, we had in IDEA, we have a position that's budgeted in the general fund, let's say it's $30,000, but you're gonna, and it's notated in the general fund, you're just gonna take that $30,000, you're gonna reduce it in the general fund, and you're gonna add it to federal funds.
Expenditures.
So you don't have
That's
to
right.
prorate it based on when the grant was.
You've already, actually, yeah, you'll have a proration, but the idea is that you have 100% of it already in the general fund, that you won't come up short.
Okay.
You follow?
I get it, yeah.
Yeah, because
So
we're gonna
you'll
run
still
into the
prorate it, it
same
wouldn't be
thing,
the
this
same-
is something
It wouldn't be
that's
30,000, it would be prorated, but.
That's
because-
correct.
I got you.
back to its effective date of the grant.
So in this particular case, we did actually just not get $30,000, and it came out of our general fund.
And so going forward, again, if we apply earlier, will that help us? Because do they do them in order, do you know?
No, no. I mean, it's something that's always been an issue in the special education part of operations at the state. I've not seen it improve, actually,
Does it
over the
only-
years. I mean, are you?
Maybe that's their method to
Is it-
save money.
Well, is there a date that you can start to apply?
I can
Yes,
start to apply.
yes.
Well, I mean, is that when you do it, so there's no option of doing it any sooner?
The delays with the state.
Yeah.
Goes to the state.
And then the thing is too, is you can send the grant in, get it approved, but you can change it too, so then you have them resend it back to you, and you have to change the submission date on it when you do that, so I don't know how they can not give us, I'll talk to you more about it,
Okay.
but the grant this year won't involve any salaries, so it should be much more simple.
Services,
So
right.
I should be able to just write something up and then rewrite it as I go along, it won't be
As needed.
and that'll be done by the end of this month.
It doesn't matter, it's the falls, it's like federal grants.
And it also looks like we're gonna have a surplus in the, tutoring.
Can we stay with the grants for just a minute,
All
Lori?
Yes.
So that we're showing that we're gonna have $90,000 less from grant revenue, or it's just it's not in yet?
It's just
gonna
not in
trickle
yet,
from-
and one of the things that the state does is they basically turn off the financial valve at the beginning of June and say, okay, you can get all of your grants in, but you're actually not gonna be seeing this money until end of July, beginning of August, when their cash flows start coming in.
But we've applied for all of this money to come to us, the 90,000,
It's
or is
in
it
the-
less, is it 30,000 less than this that we've asked for? Do you know what I mean?
I actually
Just
have
the
not
other
gotten to, I haven't gotten to June's, to reconcile June's yet.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying, 3 weeks into the month of July to get things reconciled. I mean, it's a process.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm going to give you another financial report at the next meeting.
Right,
For
we
the
can't, but we
20.
can't get funds for something they wouldn't pay us for, so.
That's correct.
The IDEA money, for instance, if we
Mhm,
didn't use that 30,000 at the beginning of the year,
mhm,
they're not gonna give it to us.
That's
So
right.
it'll decrease the
Okay.
63,000 by 30.
mhm.
Okay.
And we have a surplus in the professional subs,
On the regular
yeah, the
financials?
regular
On the
financial.
general fund?
The general fund on the regular education.
1,105,122.
Yeah.
There's not a surplus, it's over. Did you say there's a surplus?
6,200, it now remains 6,260.
Oh, professional,
right.
sorry, 5,124.
This
Right.
one's-
Right, that's
Yeah.
over, general is over.
Right. That's pretty much just
A wash, right?
for staff who took professional development days,
All right.
if they did not need a substitute, if they
Right.
managed without having a substitute. So.
Yeah, I also noticed that we didn't spend, all the money we set aside for, education for both the paras and teachers wasn't fully utilized.
A significant amount for the teachers for their course reimbursement.
Mhm.
I think there was I've got $1,971 remaining for
Right.
teacher course reimbursement. I think we did pretty well.
Well, what the paras though, I was a little bit concerned about them, that they don't seem to be taking advantage of, their contract options. I mean,
I'm
just
not
on-
certain why that is.
Yeah, do you know
but,
why it's there? Why?
We do a lot of in-house stuff, but
Uh-huh.
if you would like, at the beginning of the year, I can talk to people
Yeah.
more about taking advantage of different things. I know we've got some folks taking some things over this summer that
Right,
they've signed up for. but
Oh,
we've-
good.
We've done a lot of in-house.
oh, good.
What
Yeah, I mean, I
what line are
can see,
you talking about?
yeah, what line is it anyway?
Number 165.
165, under, under what? Under special?
Function,
Just go to 165 over here.
right, over on the left.
Oh. Keep going down. Oh, over there. There we go. Oh, 165, oh, those, I
Line
wonder
number
what those numbers were.
I'm sorry, Lori, I printed mine and it is cut off, those lines, so.
It's,
Oh, okay.
2210,
All right.
improvement
It's
instruction.
improved instruction, yeah, under the, course reimbursement, yeah.
6 down.
Under the course repairs, we got $2,300 left.
Mhm.
I mean, they're not earning, great salary, we'd love to see them, take advantage of this and get some education and. No, you can't,
It's in the-
I mean, but we have to budget every year, because it's in the contract, we gotta budget it,
It's
so,
in the contract?
yeah,
It's in the-
yeah. So I think, so anyway, yeah, we could just talk to them and let them, just remind them that this is, they can go to college and they can take courses and they can be reimbursed. They may have a hard time putting the money up front, that could be part of the problem.
I know for a lot of them that is an issue.
Right.
just stop doing so much in-house stuff.
No, don't do that. Come on. Well, you know,
Charge for it.
if there is a problem, yeah, I mean, if there is a problem, you know, with them coming up with the money up front, then maybe, you know, the board should figure out a way to deal with that.
If any issues ever come up like that,
Right.
I have passed on to John or Lori and said, how can we figure this out, how can we make it work for this person? You know,
Yeah,
it's doable, it's workable.
all right, yeah.
When you have negotiations coming for the right? Is that this year? For Paris?
Well, we'll do with
I
that.
think we have one more year,
One more year?
but we're just doing the amendment this year
Oh,
for
okay.
this, and, you know, you're right there, John, it might be.
I think you have to start negotiations.
Yeah, for next
Yeah,
year.
for next year, yes.
I
we
think
need
you're
to-
right.
Yes, you're right, there's a contract, it's a 2-year contract.
Because you could get that in, you could put that in the contract about, you know, reimbursement and all.
Right, right, or we could just
No,
change
yeah.
the procedure,
Change
the
procedure.
administrative procedure, to use the handle
John, can I ask a question? On the level of literacy intervention, I see it's K through 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do we already have some type of program for 3 and up?
I believe it only goes to K to 2, I believe. I'm right after, Jen Thomas would know more about that, but it's an early literacy intervention program, K to 2.
Okay, and do we have anything in place for Title I supports for grades 3 and up at this point, or?
What's the name of that program she uses? I can't think of it.
Treasure chest?
Well, she has some treasures material, but there's, I can't remember the name of it right now.
But there is.
There is a program that they went to, for training, and they implemented it.
Oh,
I
good.
just can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
It's like one word. The. Yeah.
Longer.
Yeah. It was one word.
All right, and
It is July.
the only other thing I noticed here, and I don't know, hopefully I noticed it correctly, is that under the maintenance, building maintenance, that seems to be the only area where we actually went over budget.
That's because we approved the security system.
Just fine, okay.
That's the transfer, and
Office of the superintendent.
and the windows.
And the windows, okay, that's fine.
All right, we're actually over on the office of the superintendent too. Can you speak to that?
The salary.
Oh, yeah.
That is on line 223. As per the superintendent's contract, there were some unused vacation days that we did pay out.
That's on two transfers.
Yes, I have done a transfer to cover for that.
The way the we'll have to talk about that. But that's okay, we'll talk about that in non-public.
Okay.
Anything, I would assume that textbooks is because we're gonna do the transfer, right, Lori? For the
Yes.
textbooks being ordered.
Yes, under 1100, yes, that's correct.
All right. Any others? Anybody?
Oh, yeah, that's a replace equipment, it's still at $33,000, that's some of those.
And there's a transfer.
Right.
Right. All right. Have you gone over everything you wanted to, Lori?
And then the last item would be on page 2, I've notated about notification that I just recently received from the local government center indicating that the Bureau of Securities Regulation has said that the
Right.
LGC also needs to look at calendar year 2010 and returning those funds. So I did include the supporting documentation so that you could see.
Now, do some of the funds come to the district or some go to the employees?
Well,
Is that how it works?
Yes,
All right.
it would be based upon what the employee contributed during that calendar year,
Uh-huh.
if they were at participation. But of course, the district does contribute the vast majority of the health insurance
Right.
coverage. So that will come back to us as a credit,
Right.
premium holiday, reducing our premiums that we'll be paying in 13, 14. That's all I have.
I have a dumb question. The cash on hand that was negative, does that mean we just have encumbrances against that? Like we haven't actually written checks, or
No,
is
that
there a
is,
possibility that you can bounce checks when that happens?
well, we're not gonna bounce checks, no. I think it was a transfer that was supposed to have been done by June 28th, and miscommunication.
Mhm.
So I just assume show it as it is on the books, because the money's 300,000 was
Mhm.
subsequently transferred, so.
So we weren't in danger of,
No, we did not.
okay,
We did not. I worked with the treasurer on that, and made certain that we were good
okay,
graces with all vendors.
okay, good. I just wondered if I was interpreting that right, or if I was not. Okay, any other questions on the financials? Thank you, Lori, that's a lot of work, and you're not even done yet with the reconciling.
No,
I gotta do with the auditor pretty soon.
no, that's mild, actually.
Really?
That's mild.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so next is just a letter for the principal's report, John.
It's a short one, since July, it was the end of the year came really quickly. June seemed to go fast, and then June 25th was here. But we're in the process right now. We had a good end of the year, had a good graduation. Thank you, Mr. Kohofer, for coming, and the weather was, I think, just a little bit hotter this year than it was last year. But it was great to be outside. It's much better than inside the gym. So we're now in the process of doing the hiring. Tonight we're presenting you with two candidates. Carla Smith is not going to be nurse and director of technology. We're going to have two Carla Smiths in the building.
What are the chances of that?
I know, right? So,
Like a series.
exactly. So Carla's been a director of technology at both the Hampton and Nottingham school districts. She's also been an adjunct professor at Hester College, teaching business computer applications. And tonight I have here to present you, introduce you, John Bridle. He's nominated for our assistant principal. Who recently worked at Newmarket School District as a social studies teacher at the middle school and the high school. And he is a resident of Exeter and also served on the Hampton School Board. So, just
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, we're trading Jason for John.
yeah, so we're now with two Johns, two Carlas, and it's gonna be interesting. So he's gonna go by Bridal, right?
That's right.
Right? So we're just gonna be
Maybe they call you Jay.
crocking and tubs. that
You
kind of
could
thing.
do that as well.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. And we're gonna be interviewing for social studies teacher.
Oh, good.
Today we did,
Right.
and tomorrow, and on Thursday we'll be interviewing for the librarian.
Thanks.
Good work.
Great.
You got,
Okay.
you got you guys in, two more guys in the very beginning of the school year.
Yep. Yep. So by the next meeting we'll have the other two nominations.
All right.
Because do you have another meeting this month? Yeah. So at the next meeting we will have the other nominations. So hopefully that's it for hiring.
Good job.
Attendance. I didn't get to put together a full attendance report. There is a numerical way of doing it, but I don't remember how to do the equation. Come up with the percent, and I didn't get a chance to contact a friend of mine. Really seriously, this really threw me for a loop, being to the 25th of June. There is a way of figuring out. I think our attendance is much better this year overall. The guidance counselors are reporting sending out a lot less of the letters that we send out to say you've been 5 days, 10 days, and so forth. But what we're finding now, the kids that are up there at the 15 days and we're sending letters, we're not getting responses from parents. Last year, we got a lot of response. People came in, and it was really interesting, I guess it's that whole being called to the principal's office. We'd be like, can you please come in and meet with the principal? And they came in to be very, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen? And we just basically said, how can we help you? Get the kids to school, document these absences and so forth. And it was a very positive, working relationship with the parents, and attendance improved for those kids. then there are going to be some that won't respond to any of it, so they're not responding to the letters. So at some point this summer, I believe we're going to try to revamp and for the handbook, just put a couple more things in there about specifics about what the principal can do, because the procedure that was put together when Mr. Marston was here said that the principal has some authority to limit some of the, things that the kids do if they're not in school. So,
Well, my question is, sending the letters out, I absolutely get, but if someone I've gotten a few of the letters, when the kids are sick, I always call in and that, so we don't come in and meet, I always talk to either, you or just whoever I need to.
no, we send letters out when you get to a 15 where we say you have a meeting on this day.
Okay,
We preset a meeting and say you need to come in and meet with us.
so the letter I get is different?
No,
No, for sick, I mean.
for sit, no, not for sit. I know.
You know what I meant.
It
sick
starts at
or-
5 days. There's a 5-day letter,
Yeah.
a 10-day letter, and a 15-day letter.
Oh.
So the 5-day letter comes from the guidance counselor usually, and so does the
Okay.
10-day letter. And then the 15-day letter comes from me, saying, please come in for a meeting, and it says that it's CC to the superintendent.
Good.
So
Okay.
it's the 15th day.
Never got that one.
So the parents that aren't showing up for your meetings, they aren't the same parents that showed up last year, like it's not the same
Right.
kids?
The ones that came in last year, met with us and so forth,
Mhm.
it's
No
not a lot of, no issues.
Now, we ever sent a truant officer out to check on the families?
Who's that truant officer now?
Usually Greg Heward.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, we've had them deliver letters, or and go and check on them if we can't get a hold of the parents and find out where they are.
Because they may have moved or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Anybody
even
or
that,
whatever.
even that. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So that's attendance. You heard that we are a focus school. I really don't know a lot about this right now. I don't think a lot of districts do. A lot of districts were taken by surprise. There's just not a lot of information out there. There's a meeting on the 17th, so I hopefully will be able to give you more information. What I do understand is the reason we're a focus school is because of a subgroup, because of the difference between the subgroup. My concern, but I don't have anything to back this up because I haven't seen all the data, was that, if you remember, we were a focus monitoring school just a couple of years ago. This is the first year that we're not going through the focus monitoring process. First year of our full plan. They're using the data, the previous 2-year data, to determine, making us a focus school, the same data that they made us a focus monitoring school, to go through this plan. So it's kind of seems redundant for us to go through focus monitoring again, when we just got a plan in place, and as if you recall, I brought the information to you on our kneecap scores that our non-proficient students was way down. So we see the trend of the non-proficient students becoming proficient. So, but they use the data from 2 years ago.
You got did you get that last note that Lori forwarded something to all of us?
Yeah, it was,
Lori?
it was.
It said 2010, 2011, 2011, 2012, and 2012, 2013 data is what they used.
Right,
Okay,
so it's this year's data,
yeah,
but also the previous 2 years. This year's data is the first data of us with our focus monitoring plan. The previous 2 years' data, that part of that data was the reason we went through focus monitoring.
right, but the focus school doesn't have to do with focus monitoring.
It doesn't, but it's the same reason. They're using the same,
It's saying that we're one of the 10% of the schools whose gap is largest in the state.
the gap
From
between the
The gap
subgroup.
between the subgroup and the,
That's what the focus
other.
monitoring was all about.
okay. But now they're calling it focus school and
Priority.
priority
Priority
school
schools.
instead of cities and ditties. Is that what this is all about?
Yes and no,
Okay.
I'm not sure. The
I
priority
think that
schools
that's
are
the-
different.
For us to do probably is wait till the interim superintendent comes on and you guys go to the meeting and then we get the information that we need. But Michelle's recommendation to us before she left was for us to accept the designation.
Mhm.
So
No, I think we
the
should
board
until
took
we get more information. You know, I
Board
think
to the
that,
polls and do that.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, the biggest issue for us is with money made available, we have to figure out whether we can accept it or how we're gonna accept it.
That's the biggest.
How much that even is.
Yeah, we have no idea.
You guys know how much it is and whether it's worth us having a special town meeting or what.
This is supposed to start this new school year, right? No, I think that's what I saw in the paperwork. I don't know if anyone read that also.
It's starting right, well, the waiver was supposed to be done and approved by last November. So it took this long for the state to get the waiver in. And part of like this, last time we got this $10,000, we were invited to this workshop in Keene. Nobody knew anything about what the invitation was about, why this money was where this money was coming from. Because it was all connected to the waiver. It was all part of a timeline that was supposed to be started last November. Part of it, as Michelle talked about, was coming up with the evaluations, the principal effectiveness evaluation piece, which was done in conjunction with the NHASP board. So all of these were in place, but we didn't have the waiver. And so they couldn't pull the trigger on any of this till the waiver came in place. And so now it's kind of a rush. And we're not able to attend the June. I know I had a planned vacation for the 25th.
Yeah, it's got 25th, 26th, is that?
26. And so
Yeah.
that notification came out mid-June to a lot of schools, so it was
Who are we sending to that?
we couldn't take the money, we couldn't accept the money.
Oh, really?
Because it was $10,000 to go with that,
And we couldn't accept it because
of the
Because of
the
the
warrant article.
warrant article, yeah.
I wish can we find out how much it costs to have a special meeting? Because if it costs $5,000 and they offer 10, have the meeting, at least we can get $5,000 possibly.
No, that money has to go towards.
But
Well, we
I'd
wouldn't
love,
have this in time.
I'd love to know how much
Even
the
if we
special
could
meetings
go.
cost.
Yeah.
Because we keep talking about we have to have these special meetings, and it may not be worth it. Well, I want to know how much it costs. How much does it cost to have the special meeting, the polling and all that stuff? Because then we'll get information.
We can find that out, I'm sure. It's because we wouldn't be sharing it with the town, so it would be whatever it costs
Yeah.
without a share. So for the next meeting, we'll find out what the cost of a special meeting
Yeah,
is.
just find out what the cost of the polling people is.
You know, it might not be a bad idea to find out how much it costs, or find out if we can find out how much Title I funds or whatever. I thought it was Title I, Michelle said that because we're a focus school, we're gonna get those funds.
How
And
much
Title
we-
I just sent out, they sent out a bulletin, it said, be prepared, we're working on the financial piece, we'll
Right.
get it to you.
And
So if you
realize this is only a problem for this current
Right.
year.
Oh, yeah.
Because when we
Right.
build our budget next year, if we know we're a focus school, you put that revenue in and it's not unanticipated, so we can
Right,
accept
so if
it and
we
it's
can-
budgeted. It's only when you don't budget the
I
revenue
just hate to see us
that it
lose
becomes an
that's all.
issue.
If we can find out an idea of what we're expecting so that we can assess whether a special meeting is warranted, then we can do it now over the summer versus having to wait, having to close the school a day for the ballot, to do the voting and all that,
Right,
That's
well,
all
yeah.
I'm thinking.
Well, money's gonna come in August, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to go to this orientation next
Find out on the
Wednesday.
17th.
I mean, the other thing I think would be
We
interesting to
don't have
do,
the answers.
I mean, is to keep track of all the money
We
we
know.
haven't been able to accept because of that warrant article, and we could, if we decide to redo the warrant article, we can say, hey, here's $75,000 we couldn't accept because of this warrant article. And I'm actually gonna continue every month, I'm gonna present the grants we could have applied for that we couldn't because of the warrant article. I'm gonna make that.
Or you can budget for the grants you think you're gonna apply for, then they're anticipated
We
funds.
could
And then
do
they
that
don't
next
qualify
year.
for this warrant article that seems to be, a
Yeah,
thorn in
we
everybody's
can do
side.
that
'Cause
next year.
If you put it in the budget to plan on that revenue, then there is no issue with the
Right.
warrant article.
Yeah, we
It's
just-
a moot point,
right.
because we're saying we think we can get this much money.
Yeah, we
And
just
you
put,
try to
yeah.
estimate as best you can what you think you're gonna have to run on.
Right, you just put $50,000 in revenue from various grants, and then if
Right.
you get it, you spend it, if you don't get it, you don't
It
spend it.
has to be based on something.
Right.
It can't just be $50,000. You have to say, these are the grants we're gonna apply for, this is how much we might get.
Well, we never
Needs to
know
be
what grants are
some
become
specific,
available.
yes, some sort.
You have to plan. John, does it mean, like, with focus monitoring, did they actually send a team in like once a semester or a term, or did they have
It
a
was a whole
person?
year, and then the whole year they came in monthly.
Oh,
Met with
okay.
the administrative team, and then they had the focus team with a larger group of people, mixed with regular and special ed. But that was like, we do 1 week with the admin team, and then the next week with the full team. And that was for a full year, and then the second year they came in and did the reports, just basically, I think,
Yeah, we
quarterly.
saw those.
And they had the report that we put together just to show the summary of what we had done.
May I ask what year so that was? When did
Just
it-
last year and the year before. Not one, last year.
Those reports are available for you to look at.
So last year is in what, 2012?
Not my first year, 9, 10, so 10, 11,
And
11, 12.
Okay.
So I heard a rumor, and that's why I'm asking. Is it gonna be a person that is like stationed at our school, or is it just,
Yeah,
You
I
don't
think we
know.
have facilitator. They're sending a facilitator. That's what was in the description. But that could
Well,
change,
you know,
well,
that's,
you know.
I got the here, but
I just wonder what that's like. for you
Um,
to-
Well, there's also the principal evaluation model they're telling you to use, which is, I'm on the board of the NHASP, so I had it, and Michelle used that for both Sarah and I already, so we've done that piece.
And that was new, that wasn't something you'd been
That was
exposed to ever before?
Nope, that was a new thing they had just released.
How was it?
Yeah, I think.
The way they do it? Is it-
Yeah, it's a great program. Here we go. Focus schools. I'm sure there will be some sort of facilitator. I don't think they'll be in the building, but
And putting together, did they put together a team last time that consisted of community and all that?
that was the focus monitoring, yes.
So that's the group that would go in? How does that? Well, I meant
Not that I'm
before, when you
aware
did.
Oh, before?
Yeah. What did they actually, kind of like a
Well-
committee? Is that what it?
It was like a committee. They did a report. They looked at different aspects of,
Set some goals.
set some goals.
Try to focus on where, just trying to,
It's different, everything from a data analysis to, you know, we did a whole thing of what we should cut back on, and we're doing too many, they felt we were doing too many evaluations, and, you know, as far as, we had Ames Web, and we had
Oh,
end of the year,
Oh,
all
yeah.
these different things, so we kind of narrowed those down. I don't know all of them right now,
no.
but.
Oh, okay.
But actually, there were people from Saras, there were 2 focus monitors, they were the leaders. And they came in and they did like file reviews of special ed, and then they did, they just came in and they facilitated the whole thing. It usually in the past, focus monitoring was just focused on special ed needs. Now we're really looking at the gap, and they wanted to look at achievement overall, so they don't just focus on special ed. So that's why it was a mix of between special ed and regular ed and parents and so forth.
I guess
When I
more,
came- Sorry, and when I came in on the very end of that process, there were still some things in my department that needed to be cleaned up and fixed. And did that right away,
Yeah.
so we were all clear.
I don't see anything about a facilitator or a process.
You're probably not quite know how they're gonna do it either.
well, there's more, you know, it'll be more more information to just get out to everybody once we all understand it better. And so what was, so the July, there was a July meeting that we cannot go to because we didn't have funding for it?
Finding it was too late in the year to get the grant, and we also couldn't accept the grant.
It's a multi-day workshop.
It's
Yeah.
a multi-day and Kate, and is it overnight? It's an
Yes.
overnight thing?
Is that the
There
one
are
that
2
you're
nights.
going to, Lori, or something
No,
completely
that's,
different?
so that is for us being the focusing school, and that's the orientation next Wednesday
Okay.
for several hours.
Someone mentioned maybe able to accept the grant for the Keen meeting because our other grants didn't come in, what we thought were gonna come in.
Well, this is for it would be FY14.
Oh, I thought it was last month, right.
Yeah, no, we would get to do the grant, but it's for something that happened in July. On the second page of my report was just the data, the spring to spring growth charts for NWEA. What this is, if you just to look at the reading, it's kind of a confusing one. So if you look at the top half of the box,
Right.
those are all of the students that are proficient. So that kind of a darker yellow and the green, those are proficient students overall from grades 5 through 8. And then below the red and the yellow are students who are below proficiency levels. Now, on the left-hand side, the dark yellow and the red, is that the below? Oh, they're above, wait a minute. See, I get confused with the growth index, yes. So, sorry, so basically the green box and the yellow box, those are the kids who made the anticipated growth.
Right.
There's a growth in, what happens is when you have a lot of kids, because we do have a lot of kids in the proficiency range, that, you kind of the growth.
Is it all
Because-
groups? Are you talking all groups?
5 through 8,
No, I mean all students though.
all students,
groups.
5 through 8,
Okay.
yep. So this is spring data comparing it from last spring to this spring. So that's for reading, and then the next one is for math.
So let me understand it, because I used to have a hard
I
time
get it.
understanding this, I don't get it.
So,
Okay,
look,
Sometimes when I look at it at first, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I
It
get-
goes below and above and below and above.
Right.
So,
So
the red 9.9 are people who are below proficiency, right?
And have not met their growth curve.
And have
Correct.
not met the growth curve.
Right.
The yellow
They met
are
their
people who met their growth, but they're below proficiency, but they met their growth
Yes.
curve. Okay.
That's correct.
so using a growth model, if
Right.
you're just using a proficiency model, then you would
Right.
look at the 2 top boxes and the 2 bottom boxes. If you're
Right.
using a growth model, you're looking at the 2 top boxes, who made their expected growth. So the green box, they made their growth and they're proficient. The darker yellow box, basically, they're proficient, but they didn't make the expected amount of growth, but they're still
Right.
proficient, still in the
Right.
proficient range.
All right. So we
And
allow.
John, those students could actually be at hypothetically 100%, but still show up as below growth because they're at 100%.
Oh, and the yellow.
Yeah,
Oh,
In
they're
the orange.
in the dark yellow, or yeah,
Yeah.
the orange.
yeah,
The,
right?
yes,
I mean,
they could be higher scoring students than the ones in the green box.
Right,
Because they could be so high
They
that,
know where to go.
that there's nowhere to go as far as growth.
right,
Right.
so, okay. See what I mean?
Yeah.
But overall, for reading, roughly 85% of our kids are proficient or proficient with distinction.
Yeah. and 5
That's a
through
lot
8. Mhm.
in those grades, okay. And then
And then
for
for math,
math, we're talking
which is, can you just scroll a little
84,
bit?
85% again.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah.
That's a big improvement, isn't it, John?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the only reason we're a focus school is because the gap is wide.
The gaps.
But, doesn't that speak to some concern among educators that you would want to try to close that gap in a bad way, like bringing the proficient kids down so the gap isn't as big, for instance? The incentive is to close the gap.
Well, you gotta bring the subgroups up. That's,
That's
That's-
their intent is, but
Yeah.
who's to say that's what they're gonna do? You know what I mean? Because both things have to move.
But then
well,
if you bring it
no,
down.
you can close the gap by bringing the subgroups up, and the gap will get smaller between those
As
two.
long as that's. what
They don't have to be the same, it's just the gap has to be within the state average.
Right.
There's a state average of a gap between the different subgroups.
Okay.
Now,
Mhm.
it could be all of the subgroups combined.
Right.
And I guess I think that part of the formula is if you have 10 or more, wasn't there? You have to have 10 or more in a subgroup, which I would hope, because all of our other subgroups are very, very small. So,
No ESL people.
Is this still, is this data that the state's using for the focus schools in the gap, is it still counting subgroups twice, 3 times the same kid? Did you know, remember we talked about that where the free and reduced lunch gets counted, but then they might also have a disability, then then they're counted 3 times that score.
Oh, wow.
Well-
Which of course then affects it
How do
completely
you know,
affects.
how do you get those kind of details?
It's
How do
on
you
the,
find-
it's
Oh,
on the
really?
state reports.
Oh.
you know, and part of it is that we have never even seen our our kneecap or AYP results for this year.
Right.
Yeah, we're
Because-
going to?
No, not that I know of. I
Does
think
it,
that that's why they
doesn't matter
have.
because of the waiver?
Right.
Oh, they're not gonna release them.
They're not even gonna release them though, so we can at least have the data?
Yeah, so how
Well,
do you
I'm sure
know?
that, I'm sure we'll be able, we have the data, we know which students, were proficient and where they scored, we can do that. As far as the AYP and how they figure out the index. I mean, I guess my confusion, when I first heard this was, we haven't seen this year's AYP results. Last year, we made it in reading in every group and subgroup. And in math, which this could be just math. Because math, last year, we didn't make it, 2 years ago, we didn't make it at all in math. Last year, we made it in every area but special ed.
Right.
So that's why we didn't make AYP in math. But in reading, we made it in every single category.
So I guess that answers my question. We don't know how far we are as far as being away from the state standard to close that gap, do we?
No.
I haven't seen any of that yet.
So if I'm reading this right, we have like 29 or 30.3% that did not make their projected growth. Do you add
Where are
the,
you looking? For
so
math?
on the math, do you add the 24.9 and the 5.4 together? For the
It's
percent
like
that didn't?
30.3,
Mhm.
Yeah.
didn't make growth.
Right.
So, but
in
you
math.
add those two, all right, so,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
Now, when we say expected growth, what happens is when the kids take the test, I'm not sure if this was in the spring, yeah, but I guess when they take the spring test, what it's a calculated formula within there, what they said the next time, when the kids take this test, the same kid takes this test in the spring, they should grow
be-
this many points.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I was adding the numbers together.
Right.
Because like when I was adding before, she was saying you had the 24.9 and the 64.3 together.
Who's above, who's
Just to use,
proficient.
yeah, I just want to make sure I was adding them together.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if your people who are proficient actually, their proficiency increases faster than the people who were on the bottom of the gap, they could improve. But if they're not improving as fast as the people at the top, your gap's gonna get wider, but your students are doing better.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
That's what I
Do
was
we have a
saying.
breakdown?
Yeah, so that's kind
Do we
of
have a breakdown
foolish.
on
Well,
that?
now once again, this is NWA, this is not
Right.
NECAP.
I know,
So,
but is there?
I don't have a
there-
breakdown for
So,
special ed regular.
you have the scores, but we don't know,
I know see, did you see that
no, do we have a breakdown of
special
subgroups
ed?
here?
No,
Yeah,
not here, not here.
okay.
But I can click on that 10 and get I can get the kids' names
Oh.
on the computer.
Mm.
For myself, I mean,
Right,
for
of
Sarah to
course.
look at it, so we can figure that out, so.
Mhm.
This is good data. But, we don't need to drill down to the level that
Right.
the principal and the
Mhm.
special ed director have to work on it with.
Mhm.
But we just have to be careful not to be too bummed out about like the below growth score if it's for
No,
somebody who's highly
could-
proficient.
Because actually, kids in the orange, I've seen them where they've, scored a 230 when the average is 220, and then they'll score a 225. But they're still above average. They just scored 5 points lower. They didn't make the growth. So
Right.
you want to see the growth. You want your biggest number to be the green number,
Mhm.
Right.
and the bigger numbers on the top part of the box.
So you're happy with these?
Yeah, I am
figures?
happy because this is what it means about analyzing data so that what can happen, and remember this is grades 5 through 8, we can now take this information, and like I said, we can click on that the 10, and figure out who those 20 kids are in math,
So it's
and let the
just-
teachers know, okay,
It's like you're
these are
talking
the
about
kids.
20 kids that need to be brought up to proficiency,
Right.
which in the scheme of the overall number is nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And but while you look at data, is that you don't say, well, so you don't, in the past, I guess traditionally, we look at it and say, oh, 80-something%, we're doing real well. But no, what about the 20 kids that didn't? So that's why we look at the data.
It might not
and
even
get
be
those
20,
names.
right?
No, that's the number of kids, yes.
Yeah, it is.
Now, the thing about everyday math, I mean, one of the issues that could be happening is that the parents at home don't understand it. I mean, could that be an issue? And so they can't really help their kids with the homework? I mean,
Well,
That can
it's,
happen with
that can
any
happen.
curriculum.
Yeah,
But
But everyday math is so different. I mean,
you could attempt to make some sort of correlation on that,
Yeah.
but you'd be really stretching it
All right.
right now.
all right.
I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah, because they're learning it in the classroom, and the teacher knows if they're not getting it and continues to work with them. So,
All right, but the key is if they're bringing work home, if they're bringing work home, and parents should be able to help them with the work. If they don't know.
But the parents aren't there taking the test with them either, so you
No.
kind of have to leave that, that's a whole separate argument
Right,
we're getting into
yeah.
right now.
And there's a lot of things that can help the kids with the work. I mean, if the kids could go right online, and there's a computer component with it that will show them how to do problems. So they don't necessarily need the parents to show them how to do the problems. Parents can guide them to the computer and say, okay, watch this as a demonstration, and I'll show you how to do that thing.
I think
Now.
what this data shows you is that we're being very, very effective with our math program.
Mhm.
Not that the 20 students, you know, if it's 20 parents in our community who don't understand everyday math, I think we'd be lucky. But like 85% of the parents in our district don't understand everyday math.
Personally, I've spent hours on that website.
I mean, I went to a conference or a class when they first introduced it, and I was just, it was twisting my brain around because it's just different, it's so different than what we
I'm
learned.
going to say
So-
that my kids, it's
so
an
for all
art
of us-
project, just to multiply.
For 80, I think it's we're being pretty effective with our
Yeah.
math to have those kinds of numbers in the above.
All right,
I mean, like I said, this is, once again, it's 5 through 8.
all right.
Which, the school video information I brought you, which showed where our kids were like, that we were ranked 40-something, it was the middle school kids, so they're making some good growth there. So, and I think with the new treasures program, unifying the instruction, we're just gonna see some gangbuster growth as far as, and it's like I said, there's nothing any different that it's making the teachers better teachers, it's just the research behind it. And it's listening to Mrs. Allman, Mrs. Schreiber, Mrs. Mayer talk about the level, how much more the kids are reading. And, you know, but this is the second year of full-day kindergarten, but even so, now with having the program, and they're impressed by how much more the kids could read.
Right.
By the time they left first kindergarten, so we'll see how it was first grade, so a few years down the line, we're gonna see some big growth, which was part of the focus monitoring, what we talked about in focus monitoring, we wanted to get a program in to bring the gaps down, so that's what I'm saying, we're still kind of in this plan of focus monitoring, and now we have another plan.
I like the fact that you can drill down as an administrator that would
Mhm.
see, because that'll help you determine if it's a specific classroom, if it's a specific grade. That's
Yep.
good.
And I have no proposal on this yet, but eventually I would like to, we were looking at the NWEA, the Ames Web information. The Ames Web information is, the testing didn't come out as good when we were looking at it. And really realizing that Ames Web tests fluency. And it's how quickly the kids can read the passage. That is the big piece of what it's testing. And I love Mrs. Allman's analogy. She says, I have them reading it, and they go, there's something about a cat in the story, and they stop and they go, I have a cat, and they start talking about the cat.
While the clock's ticking.
The clock's ticking. So they're terrible, but what's great about it is that the kids are reading it and understanding that it says cat, and they know what it is, and they can talk to the teacher, get engaged with it. I mean, that tells us more. Where NWEA really is more of an overall reading test, testing all of reading. So I think
Can't the students actually see how they're doing as they go to?
right at the end of it, yeah, right at the
So
end,
they-
right, they get a
I
score.
think that does help them.
Right.
Do the
The
parents
kids get
get
very
these
excited.
scores as well?
These,
The NEWAC scores?
the NWA scores, yeah. They were in the assessment folder at the end of the year. We're gonna start doing, I think we wanna bring NWA down to 3rd and 4th grade and do Amesweb just for K-3, because that's really when you wanna get the strengthening of the fluency and so forth. So we'll do K-3 Amesweb, then, sorry, K-2 Amesweb, 3 through 8 NWA, but I'll have a proposal on that.
This is kind of, I don't even know if is there something different besides the Web? If it doesn't, if you don't feel it works, is there like a?
Well, not that I don't feel it
Just
works,
Okay.
that's not, what I'm saying is that it's not that it doesn't work, but that,
It's only testing one.
testing one thing, it's only testing
Okay.
fluency.
Okay.
I didn't have an opportunity to prepare, and I'll try to get that for the next meeting, the end of the year assessments we did with treasures, and how well the kids did on that, as opposed to what they did on the Amesweb. Like I said, it's a time and written test.
Excellent.
Good data. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see, that's what I'm looking at. Enrollment's about the same,
Yep.
right? Pretty much?
No changes. Been saying pretty much the same all year, gone up.
And the high school's pretty much the same.
Gone up, what, 1?
Yeah, some of them are on ALMS, so which makes a big difference to the tuition rate, so. And then special ed students. How's it going, Sarah, like, this?
Is this accurate? Because this has Colin Gagnon's name on it. I mean,
This, I don't know, this is,
I don't know what.
I did not put this in here, this is not correct.
Okay.
It's in my report, the current numbers.
yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I didn't know what this one was.
Yeah, I saw McKean, that there's no caseload
Yeah.
for McKean, so what was that all
What
about?
was it for?
I have no idea what this is, this
What was that
actually
job?
looks.
Okay, so we should ignore page.
Yeah, this looks kind of like the number
56.
when I first started, I have no idea why that's in there.
Oh, what are the numbers?
They're in her report.
It's in her report.
Well,
Okay,
I
so
don't
page-
even know what she was.
For the record, in the notes, we will make sure that page 52 of the packet or page 56 of the electronic is removed.
Yes, it is.
It's
That's old.
removed, Sarah, so that's, we have not seen it, it's gone.
Seen
You'll
one.
see
So,
now.
all right, I'm done now.
Because I heard numbers are.
We're on to your report now.
Did anyone have any questions as far as where, it's funny, a lot of the teachers are saying, so, how's your summer vacation? I just kind of chuckle at them, but.
Oh, yeah.
There's still a lot going on, Cat Aid, just even being involved in interviewing, the start of summer school today, which went great. All of the teachers were out there and the kids were not as sad as you might think. Actually, some
You
came
got a hug.
running in.
Yes, you got a hug for mine.
Oh my goodness, it makes it all worth it.
My daughter's been looking for it for last week.
Has she? No, so the kids had a good time, the teachers really tried to make it fun, but I can attest to that the teachers that are teaching at least 3 weeks ago were, can I get the IEPs, can I get the goals, can I sit down with the case manager, because they were really wanting to plan some interesting things, fun ways to address what the kids needed to learn. The reason why I put the second paragraph in there about the budget requests is just kind of an FYI. There are a lot of the tests that we use that are being redone, which happens every few years. Some of them are more expensive than others. So those will be coming up. School psychologist and I have been talking about using or adding another academic assessment. Woodcock-Johnson is fine, it gives a good overview. The KTA, which I'm real familiar with, it drills down a little bit more with some academic abilities. The program itself also actually spits out a lot of really great recommendations on top of it. So we're gonna look into that. The case managers in particular were psyched that Mr. Totten, before he left, really worked on kind of the overall structure of the schedules. So they knew who they were gonna get,
Oh, yeah.
when people were doing what. So I know some of the related service people have actually drafted up like a mock schedule so far. Because what the first week or two inevitably ends up being is the related service and special education people like running around vying for times with each other. So this was really helpful for them. So the current special education numbers in the district right now, well, as of 72 is 180. So a big difference from whether the number we didn't see, 124. And then there's the breakdown. And I just compared it to the last time I did the same chart from May 2nd. And you can see that the numbers at Ellis have gone up a few. That was to be expected at the end of the year. We had some kids in the referral process, some that moved in. I expect it to stay kind of steady around that for a while. Had a couple of kids move out, and high school, that seems to change often. And I'm really excited about the professional learning community, because one of the things, that I think coming in my first year and just really acclimating, finding out what the department was all about, looking at the focus monitoring stuff, and analyzing what's going on, kind of tightening up the infrastructure, getting more into that this year and really challenging folks to look at the types of services that we're offering to kids, how we do this, working smarter, not harder kind of stuff. And we've seen some very, very good results in just everyday assessments, classroom stuff, and standardized things. I think the point we're at right now is all the grade level teams, they meet, they have common prep time, and we're very into professional learning communities. Our related service people and special education people aren't always available to join one of those teams. And they have some very unique needs amongst themselves. So I kind of want to start with the basics and really do some team building with folks this year and setting some goals within our department. Because we've spent the last 2 years tightening things up, but putting out a lot of fires as we've gone along the way. And kind of, addressing things as they've come up. And I'd really like us to sit down and say, almost like our own focus monitoring, what has gone well, what can we do better, where's the gap? How do we close it? And we have a lot of the materials already, so that works out great.
Before we move on, John, can I just ask, I didn't get to stay at the retirement party. Do you have video or anything of Jim outside at the math? By chance,
There were
pictures, anything?
Pictures, yes. People were taking pictures.
Are they up on the website?
Have you seen
Can you
it?
send me a couple?
When Teresa gets back, I know Teresa was out there with her camera, so, yeah.
If you haven't seen it, it's on the PTA Facebook page.
Oh, it is?
They put pictures of it.
Oh, did they?
Oh,
that's right. Sean was
Oh,
taking
but not
pictures.
of Jim.
No, just
Oh,
of
yeah,
what
okay.
it was. It was, one Sunday.
But I think Sean was out there too.
Actually, I think Jim was in one of those pictures.
Oh, I didn't see
Oh,
that.
the ones I saw were ones that
Oh.
took the day was finished.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Just want to remind you, with the town is supposed to be getting portable equipment that we can borrow to use to tape events. Not tape, but the film events.
Live stream.
Yeah, so.
All right, that's all, I just was curious,
Yep.
how it went and what he thought and
Yeah,
what
we
he.
surprised them. That was the day they went to Canopy Lake, so teachers they called us and let us know they were 10 minutes away. So we got everybody out on the lawn, and they drove around back and greeted Mr. Goff with signs and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice. We had a crying a lot. That was our goal.
Nice.
Okay, and then there was the building report from Mr. Brown. I don't think there's anything major there. Are the new copiers good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
And the email server is now working right, the new email?
Yeah, it is. It's getting used to it.
Getting used to it.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out how to send it to my
I
iPhone.
think we might still be having a little trouble with our school board at SAU83, so we've been sending stuff to our, personally to each other instead. Yeah, it doesn't.
Actually, try it again, because I've noticed that it was kind of a slow turnover, and I had set it up to go right, because if you first sign on, it had a way to set it up if we want to go to Outlook. Now it saves my username, and it goes right to the Outlook, so, and all my folders are now filled, so I think it was just a slower transition
okay.
over.
All right, we'll give it a shot.
Don't you know that?
Are you gonna do
I
a
do.
test?
I
I
guess.
think, yeah, I think over a 3-day period,
No,
it was
it
like
still doesn't work.
each feature got added on.
It's still not working. Yeah, I
Okay,
think
now
we'll just
let's-
have to, see, we don't have access to like, whatever you set yours up to be. We just use ours is like a phantom email.
It's
And what it
email,
is
yeah.
it's schoolboard@sau83.org, and then it gets forwarded to each of our personal emails, so.
Well, we have that, it says, like, we have the RTI leadership team.
Yeah.
That, you
There's-
just put that in, and it goes to different.
I think there's a restriction on it, because it's not working, it's a different error message.
We just have technical
Yeah,
difficulties,
we
so
need,
we'll.
we need Carl. when she's-
Our
Well,
technical person.
you can there you go, incentive to approve nominations tonight, I'll tell her tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Get her in tomorrow, start working at it.
Did anybody have any questions for the building report for Mr. Brown?
No.
Okay, and we are on to, it looks like,
Action items, food service contract, right?
Oh, actually, just one question. Are we in the process of doing the windows? Were we doing that this summer?
Yeah, we voted on it.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Do we have a start date for that?
Actually, no, I haven't heard from him
I can
on
talk to
that.
him.
I probably ordered them, but I'm just
I mean,
waiting
yeah,
for them
so-
to come in.
Yeah, I've done all the paperwork on my end, and.
Well, he usually puts those things in his report, and I just didn't see that, so.
Yeah. It just got approved at our last meeting, so chances
Right,
are.
and these reports, I think he had this report done toward the end of June, not until last week. And, so yes, purchase order was issued, I gave all kinds of information to Lowe's Credit and all that good stuff. So.
I'm sure it's on
Oh,
time.
So not action items, public input, Sue.
I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
On the minutes that I was reading through, said that I had looked online before I left to come here. It's quite a while, I was a few minutes late. And I didn't see the minutes posted yet, and this copy references the attachment of the letter that you had read, but the letter's not attached and it wasn't online, so I just wondered, I assume when it goes online, the attachment will be there. and
Yes.
I just wondered when.
It goes online after we approve the draft,
Okay.
because it's available for people to read before then, but it won't be posted on the website until the board motion to approve the minutes.
Which we did, right?
Yeah, we did tonight.
Yeah, we did tonight with
Okay.
one, I think we
So in
had
a
one edit.
couple, like a week or so, it should.
I think, I don't know how quickly Yvonne does it, but I'll have to ask Yvonne how quickly she does it. I think she does it as quick as she can once she gets word that they've been approved.
Okay.
And they will attach the letter and letters from the emails that were sent to the
Okay.
board as well.
Okay, thank you. And again, I'm sorry I was a few minutes late and I missed one of the things I was gonna ask about was kind of the follow-up on the letter that had come in from the staff in terms of, some of the morale issues and the concerns that they were expressing and sharing. And I know that to a certain extent caught people by surprise at the last meeting, so you hadn't necessarily had a chance to really respond to it, but I saw it as an item here, and I just wondered what the strategy was and what the plan was to try to, make people understand how much they're valued and how much we appreciate them.
We did draft a response, we've been working on it, because I draft it and then everybody looks at it and changes it. And then I fix the draft and then they look at it and change it. And I think we're finally at the point where it's done. As of tonight, we did have one more change that I have to make. So we'll be sending a letter back to them. Each individual person that signed that letter will get a letter back from the board. And we're working as quickly as we can to get an interim superintendent in so that they'll feel like there is the continuation of the work that Superintendent Lanka had been doing with them.
Okay, and that was part of my
my other question was gonna be just along the plan for making sure that the strategic plan and the curriculum mapping, because I know a lot of hours were put in by all the staff, so.
Yep.
Do we have any progress that you can share on the interim
There
superintendent?
could be an announcement as early as tomorrow on the interim superintendent.
Okay,
We're meeting in non-public this evening
okay.
to kind of,
Should we stay tuned to news and events page?
yes, stay tuned, because we will put it on the Facebook page,
Okay, great.
okay?
And then my last question, and I think you touched on it, John, in your report, the No Child Left Behind waiver. I just wondered, I heard about it on the news, and I just wondered what that meant and how we can take advantage of it. Does it give us any extra money in the budget or anything like that?
We were talking a little bit about that tonight. We were designated a focus school. There are two different designations. There's priority schools and focus schools. We're a focus school, and it's because we have a larger gap than the average for the state from our proficient in our subgroups in performance. And we think that means that there will be some kind of support given to us, and also some grant money perhaps would be designated for us.
Okay.
And we also think that we're gonna have the auditors look and see if we could accept some of that, because we might not get some other revenue we're expecting. So as long as we don't go over what's been appropriated, maybe we could adjust that way.
Right, even though we
But-
have the restriction on accepting,
Right, because of the warrant article, yeah.
Okay, but I was actually, and I had heard the discussion of the focus designation, but I was referring to, and maybe this is the same thing and I just don't understand it, but the waiver of, like, New Hampshire as a state was given a waiver by the federal government. Is that?
That's all part of
That's
it.
it.
So that's all tied in together? So, so the fact that we got that waiver and as a state, that doesn't necessarily mean that now there are things that we were going to have to do that now we don't have to do that.
Now, there's gonna be things that we do have to do that we didn't have to do before.
Because we're now, instead of having the No Child Left Behind issue, now we just switched one half for another, basically.
There's
The-
different focuses.
Yeah, they're different. I'm not sure what we're gonna have to do with if you were sitting in a dinner, you had to put a certain percentage amount of your Title I funds aside for professional development, and there was a big chunk of it, and part of it had to go to the cine plan. We don't have to do that anymore.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if they're gonna make us put some money aside as a focus monitoring school, or they're giving us more money as a result. I'm not, there's a meeting on the 17th,
Okay.
so on the 23rd, I'll probably have more information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the right to action items, food service contract.
Oh, yes, we're revisiting this again.
So wait, this $12,500, is that just a creative way to say we're gonna pay the difference that we wouldn't have to pay based on the contract?
No. Let me see. So what I do is I had Kathy Hodges at the Bureau of Nutrition. She looked at the entire contract. And what this italicized language means is that, first of all, she looked at Cafe Services' budget because she had a concern about there having to be an $8,000 more or less of a subsidy. That's a worst case scenario. But what she's saying, this italicized language is her language, is that let's say that deficit is more than $8,000, then let's say it's $9,000, then that other $1,000 has to come out of their administrative fee. That's what this language means.
So this administrative fee is already in our contract?
That's already part of the budget.
That's part of the quote?
Yes,
Okay.
that's part of the budget. So the language is basically letting us know that, look, we may have to come up with some money in the general fund to cover a shortage in 13-14.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. I don't- Does anybody get it? Is it
Um,
just me?
No, they gave a budget. I included his email here. And basically, he's saying that the 13-14 financial projections are based upon actual meal counts of sales from this past year. Plus, he figures that there'll be about a 4% increase in revenue, reflecting new federal reimbursement rates. The budget that he prepared did reflect as if we went up 25 cents in the meal price. He's saying if you were to increase the full lunch price another 25 cents, it would reduce, you know, that subsidy by another $3,200. So he's saying I wouldn't recommend it. In other words, if you go up so much in your lunch price, you're
Yeah,
gonna
you're
lose
not-
participation.
Right.
Right.
So the subsidy comes off of this administration fee? That's what
No.
I'm confused with.
We are gonna have to pick up the subsidy in
Now,
his budget. That's-
why are we gonna change our contract with them? Why would we agree to that when we've never had to do this before? They've always been, whatever they spend and whatever they collect, we don't pay any portion of what they're gonna lose, because we don't have control over how they manage their services. So
And
why are they all of a sudden changing the language in the contract to make us pick up any difference?
they're not changing the language. What he's doing is he's coming up with a more realistic budget. And one of the things I asked him was, what did you get for counts? And he was using counts from several years ago when you had some 16, you had more students.
Yeah, right.
Keep in mind that even though, you know, you're thinking in terms of, okay, well, you have less students, you're not going to be paying as much for food, but you still have to pay the staff the same amount of money if they're going to serve 200 students or 300 students. So you can see that there's an increase in the labor piece here.
I guess I
I'll
don't
try to go to the
understand why
budget
he
here.
didn't increase his quote. I mean, we put it out
I'm
to
trying to
bid.
figure out why all of a sudden, our food service that was always supposed to be a standalone,
Be a wash.
take care of their own self, is now gonna have
Self.
any kind of potential impact on our general fund at all. Because we went to a cafe services so that they would create a budget and they would live within their budget
Mhm.
and manage it themselves. And I'm not comfortable signing a contract with any service that is requiring us to pick up any of their loss.
Okay.
Because that was never part of the bargain when we switched over to cafe services.
Mhm.
And I don't understand why they would think we would do that now. And their contract for years has read that they would, whatever they made or didn't make was their problem.
And I've looked at all of the other budgets that they provided, and what you would see was maybe a very, very small amount here. You know, it might be several $100s. I mean, this is your first year, I think that you've seen something very, very significant. I also went back through years of records, and it looked like that there were other times that there was a subsidy from the general fund. But he's required to give you a realistic budget. The only piece that I see that he's actually gone up on is several $1,000s here on the labor costs. He's kept his administrative fee the same, but he's required to come up with a budget.
So what was
So-
what was the language that they changed in this contract that all of a sudden made us potentially liable for their loss?
They didn't change any language at all. It's the budget.
That's what I thought. I didn't see any language.
There's no language that's changed.
So if they run in the red, they take care of that, not us, according to the language in the contract. That's how I read it too, and I couldn't figure out where they had changed language.
But what they're saying, they're putting us on notice that if you don't have participation, you could be running in the red.
Okay, where does it say that in the contract?
Well, I'm just saying in theory, if you don't have participation, if you don't have the meal counts, it's
Then
not
we should lay off staff then, right?
right. He did come up with a suggestion that, volunteers, he threw out an idea of a paraprofessional, serving food.
That's still us paying for the food service cafe services.
Right.
This is interesting,
Okay.
but,
I'm trying to just pull up. I'm just explaining how it's being explained to me.
So he's actually, based on his expenses, he's saying based on what's being charged for the food, based on historical participation, he's expecting that you have to find a way to cut his costs, you know?
Have they been in the negative before in past years where they were at a loss at the end of the year and have they ever asked us to pay for it?
no, they actually usually credit our last invoice for whatever they're short. That's what they've done in the past.
Not for whatever they're short, but for whatever increase in revenues that we took in. And they didn't have the expenses on the other side, they returned the revenues. Last year, they provided $11,000 more back to the district.
Right,
Because you
it's
had
never
to be-
cost us anything.
Right.
It should never, according to the contract that I've read, ever
Mhm.
cost us anything to run the food service program.
Mhm.
So I'm really confused by this 8265 thing.
Okay.
And I wonder what the 12,500 is made up of. That seems like a line item that's been thrown in there. Maybe it's been there all along.
It's been there, it has been there all along, but
Lori, do you have what 9.06 used to say? Because I noticed it's now that italicized paragraph,
yes, that came from the Department of Education, so that's not,
Department of Nutrition.
yes.
So what did it say before this change?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go.
So is this service?
Just let me do one question at a time.
No, actually, I was gonna ask, because I'm new to this, is this kind of like when you go someplace and they have a food place inside, like, all right, you're at Walmart, and there's a food place, they run it within there, it doesn't cost Walmart anything, they run, they sell food to people, and it's their own doing. Is that kind of what this cafe service is?
The only difference
That's
is,
the way, they're a contracted service to our school, yeah.
yeah.
They're standalone. We don't have any employees that work for them.
So the money filters through.
Let me just go
us.
grab one file so I can answer your
Thank you,
question.
Lori.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
This has changed. It says the client shall cover the
I know.
anticipated loss in the accepted budget
Right.
with a transfer being done.
Right, that's why I
That's
asked
the-
what
I
it
think
used to
this-
say.
Thank you.
This is what the italicized paragraph says.
Now, do you have the whole old version? How did you know this change? You just.
Because
I've read it like
Well,
millions
did you-
of
so
times.
you've seen it
Every year I
before?
read
Alright,
this.
that's fine.
I know that it's
Contract.
changed because of
Because
the
I can
email
sign it, right.
that preceded it. If you read the email that preceded it.
Okay. Well, you said italicized, I look at this, I'm like, I don't see italicized.
No, in the
Yeah,
italicized
I read
words
the
you had up
email,
there.
yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And then after that one, there was an email that said, the Bureau of Nutrition has looked over
Yeah.
this and will only allow the change in paragraph 9.6, so when I went there, and that's the actual change, this is the language.
I thought you were seeing italicized.
No, so I just
What
wanted,
did I miss?
We're the
I just wanted,
contract.
I
Yeah.
would have drafted
Bear with me,
We're the
I'm trying to
clients.
find that, I just,
So what he's, yeah, because
We're
by,
the client.
yeah. We're the client,
They're the contractor.
in charge of the client. So they're charging us administrative expense of, okay, yeah, they're charging 12,500. It looks like they bill against that if they over, if they, in other words, they charge us $12,500 for administrative, as an administrative fee. And if they go over, they bill against that 12,500, so they lose part of their administrative fee.
well, that's what I was saying, the over is over $8,100. That's what I'm saying. In other words, they're not going to absorb that $8,100 out of this $12,500. No, that's why,
Well, we didn't get 8,100 because this says if
From the
the loss
budget.
exceeds, if the loss exceeds the administrative fee.
but the loss is already being disclosed here. 8265. So if the loss is more than 8265, they've got to pick up the other loss out of the 12,500.
So
That's
we-
how I interpret it. I'm not interpreting that they're gonna pick up this $8,200 out of the 12,000.
So if we sign this, we're basically paying them 8,200 to do the food service, yes?
He's putting us on notice. I interpret his emails to say that it could require a subsidy.
Yeah, because it does.
So-
yeah.
Well, because it says the client shall cover the anticipated loss, and that's the
That's-
anticipated loss.
That's how I interpret it as
Yeah,
well.
it says, yeah.
Not that I like it, but that's how I interpret it.
So let me ask you, Lori,
She wrote this.
But
just so that I understand what happens here, we don't touch or deposit or do anything with the food service sales, correct?
What?
It doesn't go into our account. The kids are paying cafe services for lunch,
That's correct.
and they handle their bookkeeping. We don't touch that money, correct?
That money right, but that money goes into your cash of your balance sheet, and that's how we pay the contract.
Right, because we paid
Oh,
for.
right.
So, I mean, you
Money does
get the
filter
money
through us.
to pay the contract, yeah.
How do we get the money?
I know the checks were made out to Ellis
We
School.
get it from the
The kids go through with their cards, parents do the debits, it's paid online.
So they're not,
Students
so
go
they're
through
paying
cash.
us.
No, they're not paying us. They're
Oh.
paying cafe services.
They are paying, it is actually considered district money,
They paid to us.
and I'll just show you on your balance sheet, right here, the cash food service, we've got 19,261.49, because I take and transfer cash into our regular general fund cash. It is our district cash because that's how we're paying the contract to cafe services.
So do we get a count? Like, when we get the money, do you get a count of what that money's made up of?
I have to, yeah, I do. I have to actually go through and I do a reconciliation with the bank. I pull reports, and that's how I basically enter the deposits. There's a federal piece that, they enter the federal piece online. They have to give me a summary sheet of all the student counts, and I have to go online and validate those with the Bureau of Nutrition.
So you know how many meals have been served, like say on Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, because that's also, the auditors actually audit this particular fund. They audit counts, don't forget, it's a federal program, so they do look at, right, are you the right number of meals?
Okay, so is
are
it
you
your
getting-
recommendation that we sign a contract that it costs us $8,300 to run our cafe services? Or is it your recommendation that we look for another cafe? Another
I
food
think we
service
could go
company?
back to him and just say, look, we need you to trim off your cost,
My,
trim it off.
my.
Is that your recommendation based on other districts you've worked for, or, I mean,
I've never worked with a contracted
Okay.
firm. In that what happens in regular other districts is that they cut back on the staffing, they cut back on the services.
I just
That's
want
pretty
to
much,
tell you, my concern with this paragraph
yep,
is, I see where it says the client shall cover the anticipated loss in the accepted budget with a transfer from the general fund. So that's telling me, we're gonna transfer $8,600 and whatever dollars, because that's our anticipated loss, and we're agreeing to that. But the other statement says,
I'm trying to pull this up.
the
Yes,
service account, the contractor's administrative management fee will be reduced to cover any loss in the food service account that exceeds the anticipated loss. If the loss exceeds the amount paid for administrative management fee. So that tells me the loss has to exceed $12,500 before cafe services will cover it.
if the loss exceeds the amount paid for the administrative management fee, then the contractor, okay, so
So the loss has to exceed their fee before they reimburse,
Wow.
correct? I mean, it's kind of a,
I
I don't get it. Are
I'm
we
saying
paying are we only paying the 8,600 and then they're kicking in the difference? Or does the loss have to exceed 12,500 before? It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
I think it
Is it-
means it
is it
exceeds the
possible-
anticipated loss. So if it
Right.
goes over $8,600, whatever,
Yeah, but it doesn't.
if it's higher, then they'll cover it.
That's exactly, they cover it out of the 12,500.
So we're not gonna spend more than 8,300 to 8,500.
Then what
Right.
does the next statement mean?
That means
If the loss exceeds the amount paid for the administrative management fee, then the contractor will reimburse the food service
Right.
amount.
So in other words, if the loss eats into and exceeds 12,500, because that 12,500 is part of the budget, that would mean that you're actually gonna be paying them more for their contract. So they have to pay,
we have to eat it.
they have to pay that back to us. We cannot pay any more than the contract.
So there's two things going on there.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess, as long as you're comfortable with this, Lori, and I'm really kind of relying on you, I'm going by history. We've never had to pay for their loss, because we don't have control over
Then,
how they run their business.
then let
So-
me do some historical digging. I would like to do that because I have seen some things where there were some significant losses. Maybe it wasn't here as Fremont being an independent district.
Well, when I
Maybe it
say
was-
losses though, what I mean is this: if it costs them $160,000 to run the program, and the bill came in at the end of the year at $164,900, they always adjusted that last bill to only have us pay grand total $160.
Right,
Okay.
because you took in the additional revenue and they gave you
So
back that
what I'm
money
saying is, why are we changing this now?
because you don't have the level of participation. You see what I'm saying? You had 80 plus more kids.
Then,
But they-
then
we have
you have
higher
to ask,
counts.
do they need the staff?
Yeah, you know, I mean.
Yeah.
So
that's
that's
what
So
I'm
give
saying.
me some questions to go back
Right.
to them with, that we need you to come up
I
with
think we would like to have the
adjusting your-
same deal that we've always had with them if they want to keep the business.
We need you to reduce your budget, we need you to,
We need to be sure that if they're going to run the school food service
It doesn't
account,
cost the district.
that they take care of the cost to do that. Because they're in control of managing that, not us. So it could technically blow way up, what if, children got hurt and workers' comp went up and a million other things happened.
Mhm. And that, right, and that's part of their budget, that they take care of that, they're not on our workers' comp.
But they
But-
include, I
But
mean,
we
talked-
can't get charged more than 8,300, 80, whatever.
That's correct.
In the budget.
That's correct.
Well, I guess my question is, we put this out to bid to them, correct, this year, because the contract was up?
This, what you have are renewal clauses. It went out to bid, I wanna say it was done in, what was it, the spring of 2012. And so that was, so 12-13 was year one, and this is year one of the renewal.
So was it a 3-year contract? Is that what we did last year? We renewed it for so many years?
I think it was 4 of, let me